Right, let's dive into this explainer. Today we're looking at a really fascinating contrast in the world of infectious diseases. It's a tale of two entirely different global pathogens. We've got the rapid onset acute emergencies caused by cholera outbreaks, and then we have the slow, draining, chronic burdens of parasitic worm infestations, known as helminths. Now, both take a massive toll on human life, but the way they attack the body and the way we have to fight back could not be more different. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. The global pathogen divide. 2. Cholera, the acute threat. 3. Outbreak control, cholera vaccines. 4. Helminths, the chronic invaders. 5. Targeted anti-helminthic treatments. And finally, 6. The public health takeaway. Let's start with Section 1, the global pathogen divide. To really wrap our heads around the sheer scale of the chronic side of this divide, consider this staggeringly massive number. 1 billion. Yeah, 1 billion. According to clinical sources, 1 billion people worldwide are living as hosts to nematodes, basically parasitic worms. Now, a lot of folks live with these invaders seemingly peacefully, but make no mistake, they cause a massive, silent drain on global health. They stunt growth, drive chronic malnutrition, and just fundamentally strip away a person's quality of life. Now, what's really interesting about this is the staggering contrast. Less than 1%. That figure represents the mortality rate of acute cholera, which is a notoriously aggressive, fast-acting pathogen, but only when prompt, appropriate treatment is applied. So it's wild, right? On one hand, we've got a billion people quietly burdened by parasites, and on the other, an explosive bacterial threat that is actually highly survivable, if we just act fast. Moving on to Section 2, cholera, the acute threat. So clinically speaking, cholera is defined as an acute secretory diarrheal disease. It's caused by toxigenic strains of a highly motile, comma-shaped bacterium called Vibrio cholerae. The absolute hallmark of this infection, a sudden onset of profuse, painless, watery diarrhea. Clinically, it's often called rice water stools. And the terrifying part is the speed. It can strike with an incubation period as short as just 12 hours. If left untreated, severe cholera is absolutely devastating. Mortality can hit 30 to 50%, sometimes even higher, purely due to profound, rapid dehydration. Medical sources actually use this brilliant mnemonic to remember the causes of death here, DASH, or DASH. It stands for dehydration, acidosis, shock, and hypokalemia. That last one is a severe, life-threatening drop in potassium, by the way. This pathogen basically drains the body's fluids and electrolytes so incredibly fast that it demands immediate, aggressive medical intervention. Which brings us to Section 3, outbreak control, cholera vaccines. So, how exactly do we stop these acute bacterial outbreaks in their tracks? Aside from urgent rehydration, which, let's be clear, is always the primary treatment, public health officials deploy highly specific medical countermeasures to halt transmission. We're talking about oral cholera vaccines, specifically Dukoral, Schenkol, and Uvicol. Think of these vaccines as our frontline responders. They aren't just handed out randomly. They're deployed strategically for rapid outbreak control to protect high-risk populations in areas where the disease is suddenly surging. All right, Section 4, helminths, the chronic invaders. Let's pivot away from the rapid, aggressive cholera bacteria for a moment and look at these insidious, silent invaders. Helminths are parasitic worms, and they operate entirely differently from cholera. Instead of an acute strike, they settle in for the long haul. They cause disease by occupying the human gut and literally competing with the host for vital nutrients. Or, in some cases, by migrating through the host's internal organs. It's really a slow, chronic, long-term occupation. Clinical texts actually divide these worms into two main operational categories, intestinal versus visceral. Intestinal helminths, like pinworms and soil-transmitted hookworms, stay right there in the gut. They physically attach to the mucosa, which causes chronic bleeding, anemia, and deep malnutrition over time. Visceral helminths, on the other hand, like strongyloids, they actually migrate through tissues. They travel through organs like the liver and lungs, triggering severe inflammation, tissue injury, and a highly elevated white blood cell response, known as eosinophilia. So, this raises a genuinely fascinating medical challenge. How exactly do you treat a parasite that doesn't just sit in the stomach, but actively migrates through the host's vital organs? That takes us to Section 5, targeted anthelminthic treatments. The answer lies in our highly specialized pharmacological arsenal. Medical science actually maps specific drugs to the specific behaviors of these worms. For the intestinal invaders, the soil-transmitted worms and pinworms, the frontline standard treatments are albendazole, mebendazole, or pyrantelfomoy. These are given in targeted doses to effectively clear out the gut. But for visceral tissue-migrating parasites like strongyloids, the primary treatment shifts to ivermectin. It's all about deploying the precise pharmacological tool depending on exactly where the parasite lives and how it behaves inside the human body. The crucial point here is that simply handing out a drug is only part of the battle. The broader clinical strategy is threefold. You eradicate the worm, you aggressively treat household contacts, and that is absolutely vital for highly contagious parasites like pinworm, where the entire family needs medicine, and you strictly reinforce hygiene. You see, adult worms will eventually die off on their own, so if symptoms continue, it almost always means the patient is getting reinfected straight from their environment. Which brings us to our final segment, Section 6, the public health takeaway. When we pull back and look at the big picture, the public health playbook requires two very different master strategies. Step 1 is reacting to acute emergencies. Those sudden, wildfire cholera outbreaks demand rapid interventions, leveraging oral vaccines like Dukoral and Shankol alongside massive fluid replacement. Step 2 is managing those chronic endemic burdens. Remember the billion people silently hosting helminths? We manage that through sustained, mass-targeted deworming programs, using drugs like albendazole or ivermectin. And I think this brilliantly illustrates a core truth found right in the medical texts. While we have these incredible vaccines and anti-helminthic drugs, the Oxford Handbook says it best. Don't think drugs. Think education, hygiene. Cholera thrives on tainted water and poor sanitation. Helminths thrive when basic hygiene breaks down. So ultimately, while our medical arsenal absolutely saves lives in the moment, clean water and education are the true, lasting cures. Which leaves us with this final thought. As pathogens continue to evolve and spread, are we prepared as a global community to rapidly deploy emergency vaccines for acute threats, while simultaneously sustaining the long-term treatments and infrastructure needed to lift those chronic burdens? It's a massive challenge, for sure, but understanding the science behind the divide is the first step. Thanks for joining me for today's Explainer, and keep asking the big questions.